İyi akşamlar. Hello, my name is Nan van Houte'un, and I studied theater and arts history and dramaturgy. And since my graduation, I have been active in almost all professions in this part of the arts field, with a focus on contemporary performing arts. And the main positions were I've been director of Frascati Theater in Amsterdam. It's a black box structure of 5 different small venues. I've been the head of the international department of the National Theatre Institute of the Netherlands. And for the last 6 years, I was based in Brussels as the Secretary General of ITM, the largest international network for contemporary performing arts. I am sitting now behind my desk in the corner of my living room, which functions as my study. And when I look out of the window in front of me, I see a big canal and the gray black sky of Amsterdam. I have fair blonde hair with some gray spots in it. My eyes are blue. I'm in my 60s. I wear a blue jacket with a bluish scarf around my neck, earrings, and behind me there are 2 bookcases. Well, I think that's how I look. Yes, what you can see on the screen. I'm so happy to be with you and today and to speak about the role of cultural networks and webs within a creative ecosystem. During last week's talks, Recep Tuna mentioned that the panel discussion on audience relations showed how beneficial spaces of culture is for the art scene, because people in 3 different cities exchange ideas and strategies without the usual fear for sharing ideas that others may copy. That remark was a great opening to the topic of today, because indeed, I guess spaces of culture is already showing you the benefits of cultural networking. And I would like to start with an anecdote about a farmer, a corn growing farmer. This farmer grew excellent quality corn. So good that every year he won the award for the best grown corn of his county. One year, a newspaper reporter interviewed him and learned something interesting about how the farmer grew his corn. The reporter discovered, namely, that every year the farmer shared his seed corn with his neighbors. So the reporter asked him, how can you afford to share your best seed corn with your neighbors when they are entering corn in the competition with yours each year? The farmer answered, well, didn't you know? The wind picks up the pollen from the ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. If my neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination will steadily degrade the quality of my corn. So if I am to grow good corn, I must help my neighbors to grow good corn. For me, this is the best example of what networking can bring us. Cross-pollination, making winners of all of us. Call it the power of collectivity, the principle of success, call it the law of life. The fact is, none of us truly wins until we all win. The arts are known as a competitive sector, far more competitive than farming. Arts policies all over the globe are fostering this competition. Artists have to go for the same funds. We like to be selected by the same curators to be presented in exhibitions or festivals. We send in the bids for the same programs. And we are sometimes even competing for the same audiences. So holding your cards close to your chest is a common practice. And not talking all too friendly about your fellow artists or arts organizations is unfortunately no exception either. I hope you all agree that this competition isn't a very fruitful strategy, especially not when you're a small organization or an artist working in the contemporary arts. Why? Well, it's not our rule in society to flatter our sovereigns and authorities, nor to give them the type of aesthetics and pleasure they're inclined to like. Our role is to serve the community and bring them joy and food for thought, even trigger their critical thinking. I don't know any country where contemporary arts are highly valued and supported by the governments. We have to face it. We are strong in our convictions, but weak in position. So we better work together. Networking and collaboration are not the same, but they start from similar characteristics. One could say that networking is the basis of collaboration, because it all starts with meeting each other and exchanging information for mutual benefit. It starts with a willingness to share on both sides, and with the idea that this willingness creates a same level, a non-hierarchical relation in which we have equal responsibilities. From that stage on, you can find out there are different levels of involvement and mutual benefits linked to it. From sheer exchanging information up to the level of intense collaboration, during which you can develop common activities or projects. You can share your resources, and where you literally enhance the capacity of each other. I can testify from my own experience that in our sector, this type of bottom-up collaboration is key. Those who want to be meaningful best help others to be meaningful. Those who want to run a good arts organization or develop a fruitful artist career do best to exchange and collaborate with others. So, to my conviction, there's no sound ecosystem for the arts without sound networks, especially for art forms and in regions where you can't expect sufficient support from authorities, from a huge number of audiences, or from powerful institutions. So far for the why. And before I dig into types of networks and how to best build a network, I like to give some examples from my own experience where I discovered the innate power of solidarity, which is the opposite of competition. I listed 3 types and their benefits. First, the collaboration in the fight for funding, or in the fight for survival even. For instance, lately in the Netherlands, and I must say we have a great subsidy tradition, you will will be jealous on that. The financial support to small-scale companies, though, and to the graduating artists-to-be got heavily cut down by the ministry. But together, the young artists managed to get the big institutions and some famous actors on board to plea on their behalf. And it was successful. The minister changed her mind. And in the 90s, when I was head of Frascati Theatre, every 4th year or so, the municipality of Amsterdam threatened to close down one of the arts venues because they thought there were too many. Together, we invited the policymakers and the aldermen of culture to show how each of us was part of an ecosystem and none of us could prosper without the other. Then they finally understood and stopped threatening. So these are 2 examples of how you can fight together and get stronger together. Another type of collaboration is aiming to reduce your costs. And it's very helpful in periods of austerity. I have some examples of time banking, which is when somebody delivers a few hours of work in his or her specialty and exchange it with somebody else who is on his or her term putting some efforts and helping the other way out. So you can have technical support in exchange for building a website or building an exhibition, etc., or even cleaning an office. There are examples of sharing space and tools. I expect most of you will do. I mean, technical lights, sceneries, costumes, ateliers, studios. And we had some good examples of pooling with several partners into hiring one employee. So several artists can pay for one bookkeeper or for one tour manager together. And then, of course, sharing information, contacts, ideas is also an act of solidarity. Sharing information that you get on opportunities, open calls, job opportunities, residency places, funding opportunities. Opening your address book to others is an act of solidarity. Think tanking together. The more voices you have at the table to talk about challenges, the better solutions you will get. And then, of course, there's the sharing of best practices, of concepts, of ideas for projects, which is, to my idea, very powerful, and it can be very vulnerable as well. Because you have your intellectual property rights, and they can be at stake. I've seen this being misused, but I've also been very happy that others have been willing to share their ideas and best practices and concepts so that I was allowed to copy them. I can testify I wouldn't have done a good job in any of my positions if I would not have collaborated in each of these 3 ways of sharing and collaboration. And it all started with networking. Professional networking is what you do to create a web of contacts, persons and organizations, which you can use for the fertilization of your career or to strengthen the position of your organization. Those contacts normally start long before you actually collaborate and before you'll need those persons to support you. Usually it starts with a conversation, a live or digital meeting each other. It can take place everywhere, coincidentally in a cafe, after a search on internet, in a meeting at a conference, a university, or an umbrella organization. The best condition for fruitful networking is if this first conversation is based on sincere interest in the other person. Not to sell something, not to impress, not to ask for concrete support, but to find out if you both share a common ground, a common ideal, if you inspire each other, if you may take advantage of each other's ideas, knowledge, and experience. Roughly, one can distinguish between 3 types of networks, and each can be digital or live or both. The personal professional network first. We all have our personal network, of course, our family, our friends, which can partly coincide with our personal professional network of colleagues and partners. This personal network is your address book, out of which you find the best person at the right time for a drink or a project, be it in your social media accounts like Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta, or in your address book on your phone. Another type, the opposite, is the open network or movement. It's the opposite of your personal network in the sense that it exists, for instance, in the format of activist groups or movements like Occupy, Arab Spring, or recently the action groups protesting against the treatment of refugees in Europe. There's no leadership. Social media like Instagram and Facebook groups are the tool for communication, and anyone who shares the cause joins in during the demonstrations. And there's the third type, the structured network. When we talk about a network organization or a structured network, it is the low-key, sustainable, long-lasting organizational format that normally evolves when people decide to merge their personal networks and invite others to join, based on a common goal. In the end, every member of that network multiplies his or her address book with all those people and organizations that, in the ideal situation, share the same mission, vision, and values. Like the farmer sharing his seed corn, networking is about giving before you harvest, spending before you gain. It is an investment. You need to invest energy, time, maybe some money, before you will find out how enriching it is, how it will pay off, how each member of the network can gain. I'll focus on that last example of the structured network, and more precise, the structured cultural network, since I think this type of low-key self-organization is the future for the arts. I can see that everywhere around me. Formal structures for the arts and institutes are in decay, be it because of financial scarcity, governmental influence, or even blunt censorship. Artists and small arts organizations are fighting to survive, so organizing oneself on one's own conditions is key. Most of the times, members of cultural networks look for collaboration, co-creation, projects, residencies, performances, exhibitions. But to me, the other benefits of a network are as important. As I already mentioned, the inspiration from people sharing their contacts, their information, and sharing their best practices and their failures. And besides, it may bring also visibility of your organization, of your work, which may lead to a group of potential ambassadors and references whenever you are looking for a job, for a partner, or for funding who can help you. They can bring you a coach or personal mental support, a huge family to advise you, to hug you, to support you whenever needed. And you shouldn't forget that together you're always stronger. You have a mass to make a stand, to change something. You can lobby collectively, your government, your parliament, your municipality. You can ask for attention from the press. I would like to show you a few network addresses. Ozan, can you please share the screen? Share them on the screen. These are a few international networks. These are the bigger organizations. I will tell you afterwards a bit about it, but it might be nice to check their websites. Either you take a screenshot or you can ask the organization to send you the document afterwards. And now I try to find back my own text because I lost that. Wait a moment. Yes, here we are. So about these big international existing cultural networks, you may consider to join an existing international network and step into a community of hundreds of peers. These are membership organizations which normally ask for a contribution in the form of a membership fee. Can be small, about 500 or 1,000 lira, or a big sum, depending on the type of organization you are, or the type of organizations that are collectively in this network. They normally have an office, which they call a secretariat, that coordinates the networks and delivers so-called services. Best way to find out if a membership would be useful for you is to check these websites. And you will find out that many of their services, information, open calls, residencies, downloadable publications, research, etc., can be used without subscribing to a membership. So I really recommend you just to check their websites to see what type of information they have for you. That is free there. Especially this On the Move network might be interesting if you have some idea about traveling, because they give loads of information on funding opportunities for mobility in the arts. But also ITM websites gives lots of research, free downloadable publications, etc. And they are all open source, so you can get them. Another opportunity is to create your own network, of course, or to expand the network that you already have. And this network can best fit your needs. It can be local, national, international, with other arts organizations or artists in the same sectors, in the same sector as you are, in diverse sectors, or with another type of organizations in other sectors, social academy, social sector, the academia, etc., etc. The benefit of homogeneous networks is that it brings the comfort of peer support. It normally has a single cause to empower your group members. It's easy to articulate common needs and solutions to make a mass to fight for this common cause, etc. You also have those diverse networks, for instance, arts combined with urban planning or with sociology, ecology, that can bring the benefit of unexpected new knowledge. You get other sources of information that you normally don't need. You get new insights and connections in areas that also may bring commissions to create work. It can bring new types of audiences or extra status beyond the cultural sector. Networks around an art form can be diverse in the sense that they bring together the whole chain from arts education to festival, from policymakers to artists and audiences. And if you bring them all together on the same table to tackle challenges that could bring the different perspectives and which make it possible to solve and to problems and to change together. In all cases, it's the members that make the network. They represent a great value as representation of a part of the landscape, an indispensable source of knowledge and experience, potential partners for collaboration, and if you like, persons who can make your life a bit easier. So how do networks normally evolve? Normally a small group of people decide to expand their circle. It all starts very informal, and at a certain moment, because you grow or you want to develop activity, the question of organization arises. And the question arises, how big do you want to be? How informal do you want to be? So first of all, the question is who's in or who's not? How open is your network? Nowadays, ITM, which started with 5 people, has 500 members, and it just has a few publicly communicated criteria. Everybody who answers those criteria can join if they pay the membership fee. That system works for big international networks. Other networks work by cooptation. Only members may introduce new members, or even by formal selection. All members have to agree on the acceptance of a new member. In ITM, we soon found out that being very open doesn't necessarily mean that you are inclusive. We did a whole effort to bring in a more diverse membership in regards to culture, ethnicity, gender, physical conditions. And we never fully succeeded, unfortunately. Another thing which is important is that you share the same values. I think in a network, common values are even more important than a common mission. So formulating those values is one of the first things to do if you start a network, or if you want to formalize a bit the group of people around you. And it immediately can lead to discussion and to make those values more outspoken. The question is also, how much structure do you need? Most vital to each network is the way members share information. Formats can be as diverse as a Facebook group where you just post and your information and discuss online before everyone can take whatever action is needed, up to a format in which there is a clear division of tasks based on special qualities of the members. And then up to next level, such a semi-formal structure where you'll have a secretariat with paid employees like most of the big European and international networks have. But one is not better than the other. It's all about the topics you tackle, the activities you develop, and the connectivity that you show. There's an ocean of possibilities on the topics that you may deal with. Whatever challenge or dream, it can be dealt with in a network. Audience relations, censorship, how to become more inclusive, how to work more environmental friendly, how to develop a new business model for your organization, how to use technology, etc., etc. And don't forget to check the websites of the existing European and international networks, because they have already loads of information that you may use when you're developing one of these new strategies or try to improve your strategies. I would like to finish with some remarks on networking now, at this moment, in times of climate crisis, of COVID-19, and a growing divide and isolation in our society. I think the time is now for networking. Meeting online is available for everyone who has a steady connection and a computer or a smartphone. And I know this is only part of the world. But even then, Zoom meetings like this one can happen almost everywhere, between people, wherever. Meeting live may be better, but this is second best. And it has some advantages. People with mobility issues can join, mothers with babies, elderly people, and people on a distance, be it in the next city or your colleagues in the diaspora. I said meeting live is best, but at the same time, we see all international networks struggling with travel restrictions, be it because they realize their contribution to the carbon footprint is quite large, or due to money problems, or to viruses. So I guess the local and regional networks are becoming increasingly important. Another need for networking now is identified by global economist Norina Hertz in her book, The Lonely Century. As she states, neoliberalism, and I would say most of the current economic systems, have driven people to competition instead of collaboration, to isolation, to loneliness instead of togetherness. Failing democracy, who are planting fear and distrust in people, do the same. And there's another global phenomenon. More and more mass media are being controlled or censored by governments, and more media are founding their business model on spreading false information. It was my network of colleagues in the arts that has been my best source of information for what's happening on the ground in your region, in Hong Kong, Xinjiang, in Belarus, in Poland, in Hungary for the last years. And only when we know, we can try to support each other. Yet one more thought. Specialization is increasing. People becoming specialists on ever smaller parts of the puzzle called our life or our world. Arts are part of this fragmented globalization as well. It is important to connect across specialisms, across cultures, and across sectors. And then I like to end with my contemplation. Thanks to end with this contemplation. Thanks to networking, my personal address book is the one thing I would carry when I would have to flee my home on fire. It is my window on the world. It inspires me. It gives me the feeling of belonging and knowing there's always a safe haven, a person who can help me out. Thank you.